like to thank everybody for joining us this evening, and would like to welcome you to the presentation for the opening of Crown High School and the expansion of Damascus High School additional boundary options public information meeting. My name is Adnan Mamoon. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Montgomery County Public Schools. Tonight, we would talk about some additional options for this boundary study. We will review the maps with you for the additional options, and then we will share with you the resources that you can use to look at these maps in your own time, as well as look at the data tables and other associated data with these options. And more importantly, we will also share with you a link to the ongoing survey, which will now include these additional options for you to provide feedback. This is one of the most important part of this process. Would love to hear feedback from all of you. So please stay through the presentation so we can share these options with you, as well as please take a note of the additional resources, take a look at the information, and provide us with your feedback, because that's going to be, an very important part of this iterative process, because we will be sharing those feedbacks with the Board of Education, Superintendent, as we go into the next phase. We will also share the next steps of this study during tonight's presentation as well. So as far as the additional options are concerned, on October 30th of 2025, the board passed a resolution directing staff to develop additional options for the Crown boundary study, including scenarios in which Crown High School could potentially serve as a holding school. The additional options we're going to be presenting tonight are based on that resolution. These options will show you, it includes scenarios where Crown could be used as a holding school, either fully as a holding school or in combination with serving neighborhood students. In these variations, Crown could temporarily house students from schools undergoing construction or operate in a hybrid capacity where it both serves the Crown area neighborhood students and provides temporary space for other high schools. The goal of these scenarios is to support the upcoming construction that was discussed with the board. So that's why they asked us to look at this as an option to help support upcoming construction needs, as well as long-term efficient use of the facility. We also examined other ways Crown could operate as a comprehensive high school. Some of the options that you will see tonight includes in an option for Crown, where it would enroll students from the Crown neighborhood, as well as students currently attending the Wooten High School boundary. This option was developed in direct response to the board's request that we analyze different ways Crown might address the enrollment distribution across the cluster, and it also reflects community feedback encouraging us to explore broader long-term solutions. So these are additional options. I would like to remind everybody that are in consideration along with current options A through D. So these are additional to the current existing A through D options. And the boundary options website will include these additional options in the surveys, as I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, which is the important part. The date for that survey will be extended until January 9th of 2026 to allow time for proper feedback. With that, I'm going to turn this presentation over to Kat Malchiotti, our Executive Director of District Operations.
Good evening and welcome. We are using these December public information sessions to share additional options E through H for the Crown Damascus boundary study, and you'll have the opportunity to provide feedback. These options were developed based on the Board of Education's resolution to amend the scope of the boundary study that was adopted on October 30th, 2025, and the resolution is actually linked in the boundary options webpage. Your feedback will be synthesized along with the feedback we've been collecting this fall in order to support the option development process for the superintendent's recommendation that will be presented to the board in February 2026. The board will hold work sessions and public hearings in February and March of 2026. And the final decision of the board will be shared in March 2026. And the implementation for the boundary assignments will begin in the 27-28 school year. These are the middle schools and high schools in the scope for this boundary study. There are no elementary schools in the current boundary study scope. While the elementary school assignment will remain the same, the assigned middle school and or high school could change for those included in this boundary study scope. A future elementary school boundary study has been proposed after this boundary study is complete. The boundary study process is guided by Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning. The 4 factors outlined in this policy that will be considered when recommendations for boundary options are developed are demographic characteristics of student populations, geography, stability of school assignment over time, and facility utilization. There's no weighting or priority for the 4 factors when determining boundary options. When developing recommendations to the board, the superintendent of schools will provide a rationale for each recommendation that demonstrates the extent to which any recommendation advances each of those 4 factors. And while each factor is considered, it may not be feasible to reconcile each and every recommendation with each and every factor. And throughout this process, community input is sought in accordance with Board Policy ABA, community engagement. And I'm going to turn things over to Kate, and she's going to get started with option E.
Thanks, Kat. This is Kate Doran with Flow Analytics, and we are talking through the new options, starting with option E. So this is geography and stability of school assignment over time. According to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should, unless otherwise required, take into account the geographic proximity of communities to schools, as well as articulation, traffic, and transportation patterns and topography. In addition, options should consider at a minimum not only schools within the high school cluster, but also other adjacent schools. According to Board Policy FAA Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should result in facility utilizations in the 80% to 100% efficient range over the long term whenever possible. In option E, you can see the middle and high schools in this boundary study scope that fall within, below, or above that 80 to 100% efficient facility utilization range. According to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should especially strive to create a diverse student body in each of the affected schools in alignment with Board Policy ACD, Quality Integrated Education. Demographic data showing the impact of various options include the following: racial, ethnic composition of the student population, the socioeconomic composition of the student population, the level of English language learners, and other reliable demographic indicators, and participation in specific educational programs. For option E, you can see where the percentage of resident students that live within the option boundaries decreases, increases, or remains the same for those students who participate in the free and reduced price meal program or farms, and those who are identified as emergent multilingual learners, EML. The option E data tables available on the website also include demographic data by race and ethnicity, which is defined in MCPS at a glance and self-reported by families. Here is the high school overview map for option E. A large-scale version of this map is available on the website with a lot more detail about the boundary options or the boundaries inside of this option. And here is the middle school overview map for option E. Again, a large-scale version of this map is available on the website with more detail for the middle school boundaries for this option. And I'll turn it back over to Kat.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. So This is option F, and we're going to talk a little bit about geography and stability of school assignment over time. Here are some of the highlights as well as the program regions 4, 5, and 6. And just as a reminder, Rockville High School and Magruder High School are not included in this boundary study scope or the other one. So according to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should, unless otherwise required, take into account the geographic proximity of communities to schools, as well as articulation, traffic, and transportation patterns and topography. In addition, options should consider at a minimum, not only schools within a high school cluster, but also other adjacent schools. Okay, according to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should result in facility utilization in the 80 to 100% efficient range over the long term whenever possible. In option F, you can see the middle schools and high schools in this boundary study scope that fall within, below, or above the 80 to 100% efficient facility utilization range. According to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should especially strive to create a diverse student body in each of the affected schools in alignment with Board Policy ACD, Quality Integrated Education. Demographic data showing the impact of various options include the following: racial and ethnic composition of student population, the socioeconomic composition of student population, the level of English language learners, and other reliable demographic indicators, and participation in specific educational programs. In option F, you can see where the percentage of resident students decreases, increases, or remains the same for those students who participate in the free and reduced price meal program, FARMS, and those identified as emergent multilingual learners. The option F data tables also include demographic data by race and ethnicity as defined in MCPS at a glance and self-reported by families. This is the high school overview map for option F. A large-scale version of this map is available on the website, and you can see the lines for the high schools included in the scope. And here is the middle school version of the overview map for option F. And a large-scale version of this map is also available on the webpage, and you can see the middle school boundaries outlined there. I'm going to turn it back over to Kate. She's going to talk a little bit about G.
All right, so this is option G, some more information about option G, geography here. So according to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, the school boundary assignment plans should, unless otherwise required, take into account the geographic proximity of communities to schools, as well as articulation, traffic, and transportation patterns and topography. In addition, the option should consider at a minimum not only schools within the high school cluster, but also other adjacent schools. According to Board Policy FAA Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should result in facility utilizations in the 80 to 100% efficient range over the long term, whenever possible. So for option G, you can see the middle and high schools in this boundary study scope that fall within, below, or above the 80 to 100% efficient facility utilization range. According to Board Policy FAA Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should especially strive to create a diverse student body in each of the affected schools in alignment with Board Policy ACD, Quality Integrated Education. Demographic data showing the impact of various options include the following: racial and ethnic composition of the student population, the socioeconomic composition of the student population, the level of English language learners, and other reliable demographic indicators, and participation in specific educational programs. In option G, you can see where the percentage of resident students, so the students within the option boundaries, decreases, increases, or remains the same for those students who participate in the free and reduced price meal program, FARMS, and those who are identified as emergent multilingual learners, EML. The option G data tables also include demographic data by race and ethnicity. Those are on the website, and that is defined in MCPS at a glance and is self-reported by families. This is the high school overview map for option G. You can see the Crown high school boundary there in the white with the black outline in the middle. A large scale version of this map is available on the website with all of the high school boundaries for this option. And this is the middle school overview map for option G. Again, you can see that Crown outline overlaid on the middle schools here. A large scale version of the middle school map is also available on the website as well. And Kat's going to walk you through option H, the last one.
Thank you. So for option H, we show an alternative use for Crown High School. According to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, the school boundary assignment plan should, unless otherwise required, take into account the geographic proximity of communities to schools, as well as articulation, traffic, and transportation patterns and topography. In addition, options should consider at a minimum not only schools within a high school cluster, but also other adjacent schools. And you can see for this option some of the highlights of it, as well as those program regions. According to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plan should result in facility utilization in the 80% to 100% efficient range over the long term, whenever possible. In option H, you can see the middle and high schools in this boundary study scope that fall within, below, or above the 80 to 100% efficient facility utilization range. And according to Board Policy FAA, Educational Facilities Planning, school boundary assignment plans should especially strive to create a diverse student body in each of the affected schools in alignment with Board Policy ACD, Quality Integrated Education. Demographic data showing the impact of various options include the following: racial and ethnic composition of student population, the socioeconomic composition of student population, the level of English language learners, and other reliable demographic indicators and participation in specific educational programs. In option H, you can see where the percentage of resident students decreases, increases, or remains the same for those students who participate in the free and reduced price meal program, or FARMS, and those identified as emergent multilingual learners. The option H data tables also include the demographic data by race and ethnicity, as defined in MCPS at a glance and self-reported by families. Here is the high school overview map for option H. A large-scale version of this map is available on the webpage, and it will show you the boundaries for the high schools included in this scope. And here is the middle school overview map for option H. And a large-scale version of this map is also available on the webpage, and it will show you the boundaries for the middle schools included in this boundary study scope. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit about the resources. And so the options webpage, which I'm going to model in a few minutes, has many resources for you to explore. It includes interactive map tool, data tables, articulation charts, and different static maps for you to review as you look over options A through H. And as you can see here, all of the options, including the 4 A, B, C, D, as well as E, F, G, H, are available on the webpage. And for each of those options, you will find the interactive map tool, the effects tables, articulation charts, data tables, and those static maps. Okay, so the interactive map tool, or the MCPS options viewer, allows you to type in an address to determine the assigned middle schools and high schools for each option A through H in this boundary study. And you can click on an area within the boundary study scope and see all of the current elementary, middle, and high school assignments, as well as the middle and high school assignments for each option. And I'm going to model that as well after this. And I just wanted you to see a screenshot of what it looks like now to have the existing school assignments as well as the assignments for not only options A through D, but also E, F, G, and H. And finally, we have the survey. It is open. Once you review those options, including those additional options and those accompanying resources, you'll be able to provide feedback in the survey. It is available in English as well as Spanish, Amharic, French, Chinese, Portuguese, Vietnamese, and Korean. And as Mr. Mamoon said, it will remain open till January 9th, 2026, in order for stakeholders to have time to review those options, accompanying resources, and provide that meaningful feedback. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. And I'm going to show you how to access the web page. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and just show you what it looks like to go to sort of that MCPS homepage. So as you can see on the MCPS homepage that has sort of those little tags, there is one on the homepage for boundary study. And so if you click on that, you will see the boundary options for Woodward Northwood as well as Crown Damascus. And if you click on the learn more, you can see that the page has been updated. So now it includes options E, F, G, and H. And so if you click on one of them, it will take you to the page that has, as I said, the interactive map tool and then all of those resources. And so I can click on data tables and I can see the data tables that correspond to option F in this case. And I can see the demographic information that we mentioned for both middle and high school, as well as that facility utilization. And so for each of the options, I have the ability to go in and take a look at the different pieces of the option so that you can really take some time to explore them. And so all of those have been posted and are available. You can also see the current articulation if you want to review that related to Crown Damascus Boundary Study Scope. And if you get lost, you can click on go back to the home page and it will take you back to the main page. The current options are also listed, and so all of those resources are still available, and you can see those maps as well as all of the resources. When you are interested in sort of looking at the survey, I just want to take a minute to highlight for you some of the differences in the survey. And so you'll go into the same survey again. And you will notice when you get down to the options that you prefer, you will see E, F, G, and H have been added, and it says 12/1/25, so you'll know when they were added. It still has that additional feedback. And then there's an additional question which asks you if you want to go back and sort of look at those initial options 1 through 4 that we presented in the spring and, sort of share anything related to that you would want to share with the team. You will be able to do that, and that links to that initial options webpage. But again, the option information has been added. This additional feedback question is still there. You are welcome to go in and, sort of focus on E, F, G, and H. You're also welcome to go in and sort of look back at all of the options on the whole. And then again, you'll be able to sort of click into these options and take a look at all of the resources. When you want to look at the interactive map tool, for each one, it says, option H, option B, option D, but it's really the same map tool. And so I'm just going to take a couple minutes to kind of show you what that looks like. And so you can see here, what I can do is I can kind of pick an area and narrow in on it And what you'll notice is that when I chose that area, it shows me not only the current elementary, middle, and high school assignments, but it also shows me the ones that would be related to each of those options. And so I can kind of pick anywhere within here and it will do the same thing. It'll show me existing as well as for the options, and I can kind of jump around the map and see different sort of options in the different pieces of this region and just kind of take a look at it and see what's going on. And then if I get lost or I sort of am like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on, I can always go like this and press that little house, and it's called the default tool, and it will take me back to the original map. I can also press the refresh button and it will do the same thing. So that way, if you feel like you've gotten lost within the map, it'll take you back there. You can also type in an address. And if you give it a second to load, it will actually find the address for you. And then once you click there, you sort of click next to it and then you dock and you can see sort of all of those options as well. And again, existing as well as the options A through H. And you can sort of zoom back out again and look at the map and then, you know, sort of zoom into those different areas. And so this map tool is open and it's available and you'll be able to use it. I will just kind of click in a few other places to show you, but it's really helpful for you to see sort of what's going on in the different pieces of the map and how you'll sort of be able to navigate it by clicking and saying, oh, I see where, you know, sort of those options land in terms of the assignments, either based on my area or based on a neighborhood. And you'll be able to use that. And then again, once you feel as though you have spent enough time looking at them and you're ready to give feedback, you can scroll back and you can go right to the survey and click on it and give feedback right in the survey. And we really just wanted to say thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you so much for participating. And we hope that you had a wonderful Thanksgiving break with your family and friends. And we look forward to continued engagement with you throughout this process. And happy December. So have a wonderful evening and good night.